everyone, and welcome to this week's Insight. I'm delighted to say I'm going to be joined by Nate from Koalaa, who many of you, of course, will know from the Reach activity weekends. Here's a quick little reminder, though, just before we get to meet him personally.
Are you holding it?
Well, we're also joined by Alex from the Alex Lewis Trust, and we're going to talk to Alex in just a short while. But first of all, Nate, a very warm welcome. Great to see you. I think the last time we saw each other was at the 2019 Reach weekend, wasn't it?
Yeah, which is actually a fair amount of time ago. Last year went so quickly, it doesn't feel that long ago, but it was a good time.
It's amazing how time absolutely has flown. But give us an update, because you have been on such a roller coaster with the development of everything that you've been doing. So give us a bit of an update of what's happened since 2019, because of course we now have this brand Koalaa. So tell us a bit about that and what you've been up to.
Yeah, so I think I was on stage with Amy, one of the Reach children's mums, the last family weekend, asking for everyone to try out our first design of the then called the Mitt. We did that, and what we realized is that we could do this. We could fit limbs to any age. From I think the youngest was 3 months, oldest was 77. But we also realized is that people were asking for more than just limbs. It was about holistic support and a peer-to-peer kind of community of like-minded folk that we wanted to build. So we set up the brand Koalaa to do that, to make other products and other services and tie them under one banner. And since then, we've linked up with a whole bunch of charities, including Reach and Alex Lewis Trust. I know Alex very well. I'll let him introduce his story in a second. But and we've launched Project Limitless, which is to get an arm to every child in the UK that might enjoy one. And it's really exciting. It's going really well.
It's a fantastic story, and what you've achieved in such a small amount of time is absolutely amazing. And of course, meeting up with Alex is great. So Alex, a very warm welcome. Love to see you too. Tell us a little bit about your background, who you are, and also how you got to work with Nate and other charities.
So in November 2013, I caught a very rare case of strep A, and I was rushed into intensive care. And subsequently, I lost both legs above the knee, my left arm above the elbow. And about 6 months later, after a very heavy drinking session in London, having met Holly Willoughby, I unfortunately broke my right arm the following night. And then sadly, my right arm was amputated below the elbow. Now, I was due to go to Roehampton for rehabilitation. And through the process of being in hospital for so long, there was lots of Googling of what prosthetics look like. And a lot of it, what we found were really cool microprocessor knee joints, really cool bionic hands. It all looked very new, very progressive. It looked amazing. And I think part of me was quite excited about what I was going to get when I went to Roehampton. When I got there, sadly, the NHS simply didn't have the funding for what we saw on the internet. And I totally understood that, because I reckon I must have cost the NHS about £1 million in those 7 months. So I left Roehampton quite dejected, and we then set about on a path of finding prosthetics and understanding the cost of them, because I couldn't get an accurate quote on my life really going forward. So I went out to America to the Hanger Clinic, and in America they give you what we call a life quote. And my life quote from 35 to 60 was about $3.5 million at that time. And my wife and I, sorry, we couldn't believe what we'd just been told. So we flew back to the UK, even more dejected than when we left Roehampton. And we got back, and it was a chance public speaking event where I spoke at a school in Warminster. And I met a chap there called Sam Wilson, who was doing a PhD in biomechatronics. Now, I still don't really understand what biomechatronics even means, but he was saying he couldn't get guinea pigs to work with the students. So I immediately put my stump up. I said, yeah, sign me up. I love the idea of working with someone like you who's doing stuff with biomechatronics and for prosthetics. So we went to Imperial, and there we discovered a whole raft of people working on various projects, and that's where we met Nate. So Nate came up to me and he said, it's great to meet you. We've got 6 months and we're going to build you the best bionic hand you ever did see. It's going to be amazing. It's going to have moving fingers, moving thumbs, going to have wrist units. And, you know, in the back of my mind, I was thinking, well, good luck with that in 6 months. And at the end of the 6 months, fair play to them, what they achieved visually looked shocking. You'd never put it on. But Nate really listened to the feedback that I gave him after the end of his university degree. And I said, look, from a prosthetic standpoint, from a user perspective, all we want is something that's affordable, comfortable, and functional. And I said, you know, for me, something that was lightweight, that I could leave in my office, for instance, that I could get out of my hard shell prosthetic and go into something soft and comfortable to continue to work on an iPad, or something like a off, and you slip into what is now the Koalaa Mitt. And Nate really took it on board and ran with it, and you know, here he is right now. And I firmly believe he is changing the landscape of prosthetics. You know, it's a game changer what he's done, because it's now given us options, it's given us choice. So working on the project is a no-brainer from an amputee perspective.
And one of the things I really want to talk about is the Project Limitless and what you guys are both doing. So Nate, tell us a little bit about how that came about. You know, because you know all the different charities that you brought together has been quite amazing. So, what is Project Limitless?
Well, it started right here. It started with Reach. I was having a conversation with Deb and Kate, who, if you don't know them, they're awesome. And we were just talking about the test we'd just done with 66 people around the UK sending out prosthetic limbs, which in itself is quite a unique thing to be able to fit manually, like completely remotely, like clothes, and then ship to someone. And also the really low price of each one. And we were saying, you know, what would it take to do this for everyone in the UK? Like, what would that take? And it's like, well, this could be really doable. So we did a pilot with Reach and with another charity called LimbBo, and we did 40 children in April. Got limbs out to them, and that timed with Limb Loss Awareness Month, which was great. And then we got approached by Douglas Bader Foundation and linked up again with Alex and the Alex Lewis Trust to say, okay, we did a pilot with 40. Let's take this to let's open this up to the entire country. And then so the last half of last year was a lot of linking up with all the charities we could find in the UK, say this is what we're doing, and then starting to just get the word out. And the public response has been amazing. The amount of funding they've already pledged, and you know, we're on track to meet the target, which is epic. And so I think this year we really are going to be able to get a limb to every child.
Wow, I mean that's an amazing achievement, you know, and you're only 2 years out of university. I mean, it's just an extraordinary achievement. So, congratulations for that. And just before we talk a little bit more about the project and some of your wearables at the moment, Alex, tell us a little bit more about your trust and how that works.
So in about 2014, I think we set up the Alex Lewis Trust because once people heard about my story and what was going on through, you know, Lucy and we have a restaurant and a wine business, so we're very much immersed in hospitality. And and they really got behind me, and they knew that prosthetics were going to be expensive. They knew the NHS at that point had no way of funding someone like me. So they started to do all sorts of weird and wonderful challenges and things, and they raised money for the trust. And that gave me the opportunity to go to Pace to purchase arms, to try sockets for my legs, various attachments, and sport arms, for instance. And then we did a lot of work with military charities, and I went out to Greenland and Namibia. But in the end, we found that the more university research work we did, the better it got, because at no point did I see any improvement in prosthesis. I wasn't seeing a trajectory where this arm was being improved upon or that leg was being improved upon. So through the network of Imperial, we now work with Southampton, Bournemouth, Portsmouth. We're patrons of various charities now, and we're on board with a lot of research work about the improvement of these prostheses. Working with Nate has been an eye-opener, and to see the passion and a lot of the students who want to do great work and want to help people with disability. But also it's more important that they get some end user feedback. So it's my role that any project that I work on, we work with the student from the word go. If they're going to design an elbow joint, well, we're going to give them the information that we've learned from having above elbow prosthesis, what's available, what's not, and work with the students all the way through the project. So at the end, they have something tangible that can be trialed. And then if it's successful, we can then put it back into the university, and then that can be improved upon time and time again until we get a product with the university that we can take to market. And then hopefully the student will earn some money and the university gets some money from the IP. So it's kind of a win-win in theory, but I think we need to see a lot more of that. So we have an improvement in what's available right now.
Well, it's fascinating to hear all of that, Alex, and congratulations for all the work that you've done, and I know that you're working with Nate and everybody else has again brought on tremendous change and tremendous benefits. And at this point, I'd love to encourage everyone watching to please ask your questions, whatever questions they are. I guarantee there will be other people watching who would be wanting to know those exact same things. So please put your questions down in the chat box below, and we'll get through as many as we possibly can in the time that we have. But the first thing I really want to talk about, Nate, if I may, is about some of the latest developments and this type of limb difference that you can deal with. That's probably one of the biggest questions that parents will have, about their children and their specific and individual case. So give us an idea of where you can help and maybe where it's more challenging to help.
Yeah, for sure. So, as of right now, we have sort of two major types of prosthetic limb we can send out. The first one is for if you have like a working elbow joint, but maybe have lost a wrist and a hand. And for that, we have one that people might have seen before, which is called the Mitt. And the way that works is, again, it's much more like clothing. So you just slip into it. This will go above your elbow. This will go below it. You can just tighten on, loosen off, and you just have different tools that you clip on and clip off magnetically. And recently, as in about halfway through last year, we got a lot of requests from people who they actually had a wrist, but maybe were missing one or two or all of their fingers. And so we extended the principle and have what's called the paw. So it's another sleeve, but this time it's for people with partial hand kind of limb loss. And so that I can actually demonstrate this on, because you can have all of your fingers and still wear it. And that sort of goes on sort of like a glove. This one's just Velcro. But the principle is exactly the same. So the very same tools will just clip on and then you can use them. And so that's what we've got right now. As a general rule, because everyone has, a unique kind of limb difference or a unique kind of story. So we always recommend get in touch, and we'll put you in contact with our limb buddies, who are people who are in the community, understand types of limb difference. They are either a parent of a child with limb difference or have limb difference themselves, and we'll find a solution. Because as Alex touched on, all of these ideas come from just the community. I have both of my hands, so we as designers just need to listen, and we're always making new solutions and new designs based on people's feedback. So we really do encourage, just get in touch, and we'll either have it already, or if we don't, we'll make it and we'll figure out a way to get a solution going.
And we'll put all of those details down below as well, to make sure that people know exactly how they can get in touch. But do you have any plans to work with older children and adults? That's a question that's coming from Lou Jones.
Yeah. Oh, hi, Lou. Yeah. So we actually started. Well, we started with Alex, and so we started with adults, and just purely organically, we got a lot of interest from parents of young children, because young kids relentlessly change size. So it's a benefit to have a flexible kind of. I know they won't stop. We need to fix it. But so they organically sort of switch to children, but we can cater the whole range. So the concept of a soft sort of sleeve and detachable tools is applicable across the age range. So like I said, the youngest user we've had has been 3 months old, so then they get like teeny tiny ones. My bed's just covered in arms right now. That's why I'm just sort of like the oldest user we've had is well into their 70s. So again, any age range, do get in touch. And in terms of Project Limitless, like I said, the public support has been incredibly positive, and we're working really hard to widen that range as wide as possible, to as many age ranges as possible. So do get in touch anyway.
And Alex, you've obviously seen during this time tremendous change. It must be quite exhausting actually keeping up with all of the developments that are taking place.
I think at the beginning, we're uber excited just about the concept behind it. So we had lots of iterations of the Mitt being sent through the post. Nate used to come to my house, and I remember we used to cut vegetables on my gym floor. We tried to open a bottle of beer, I think, and tried all sorts of different things. But I think in the last 18 months, the amount of new designs coming through, and it is just flat out, what Nate has done and their team, it's incredible. And, I've got a new arms trial at the moment. I think I had a new one sent a few weeks ago that we had to trial. So it's constant. The evolution is getting quicker and quicker and quicker. So, not only for children, but I think what we've learned in the last 18 months is that kind of merger of orthotics and prosthetics. So we kind of started at prosthesis, and now we're sort of moving our way through, as Nate said, to partial hand, and then obviously to people. There's a huge market out there for people that struggle with arthritis and various forms of deformity within their limbs. So, it's exploring this network, and I'm sure Nate said it before, but there's no accurate database of who's out there. How many people need a Mitt, how many people need a paw, how many people need a partial hand prosthetic. We just don't know. So the Limitless project is going to begin to build this database that we need, and we get that feedback, and then hopefully we keep producing what the children want, and then obviously as it gets bigger and better, what the adults want. But it's relentless, and they work. They work crazy hard, those guys. So hats off to the team and Nate, really. I think Nate must be a slave driver, looking at the amount of new arms that are coming through.
Well, guys, I'm really pleased to say we're getting lots of questions coming in. So we're going to do a bit of a quick fire, if that's okay, and get through as many of these questions as we possibly can. The first one, Nate, is about the different materials that make up the Mitt. So, for example, are you working on breathable, waterproof, different thumb fabrics, things like that?
I love that question. So we actually have an update for the Mitt. So from the next sleeve that we'll be launching in a few months, we'll be doing even more of this. So keep an eye out for that. But even with these designs we currently have, we can interchange the fabrics to whatever you like. We have 3 standard colors, like the koala gray, like a black in case you get really dirty all the time. But the most fun one, this is a personal favorite because I'm a giant kid, is we have like a white one. And then we send them with these washable markers. So what you can do is just like, once you get them, you can just draw all over them like a cast and like do any designs. Literally the word your oyster. We've seen some mental designs. And then you chuck it in the washing machine, which is how you clean all of them. And all the clothes wash out, you can just do it again. That's really fun. But we'll be doing a lot more of just different fabrics and different styles, definitely.
Brilliant, great. The next one is, unsurprisingly, Catherine has pointed out that young children groan. I think you mentioned that as well, Nate. But she's saying, what's the use time of a mitt from when it's been first fitted?
So the good thing is because they are fabric, you've got a bit of play in them, and so as a general, we sort of make the analogy to shoes. So as quickly as a child grows out of a pair of shoes, will probably grow out of one of these. You can send over one back, and we'll send you a new one. So no stress there. So typically, depending on how young or old they are, between a year to 18 months, and before you'll probably need a new one, which is probably about the time you might want a fresh design anyway.
Well, as you say, with the designs changing so fast anyway. Really good. Thank you very much for getting through these questions. It's really great. Next one comes in. It said, how fast is the process from the first call to getting the final arm?
So, I mean, our end goal is like next day delivery. We want to be like Amazon, but without the badness of Amazon. There's no reason you can't do that, like clothes. Currently, because we're ramping up our production, and in a time of COVID, we say absolute max is 60 days. Normally, the longest time is just to the backward and forward with your limb buddy, just to get the measurements from each other and just check that we're sending the right things. But yeah, that kind of time frame, we're talking a few weeks max.
Brilliant. And actually, you talked about limb buddies there, and we've had another question coming in saying, did they see you advertising for limb buddies? And that maybe you could first of all answer that, and then also tell us a little bit more about limb buddies and how that all works.
Yeah, we are advertising. We're, like I say, we are growing quickly. So if you'd like to become part of the Koalaa family, then please do get in touch. Yeah, limb buddy is it's what I was touching on earlier, in that it's not just about prosthetic limbs. Like, prosthetic limbs in a vacuum are kind of pointless. It's about making sure that the tools we send you are matched with what you want to do, and also just making sure that you have a point of contact to ask any questions, to understand how to use the devices, but also be put in contact with other people, other families that maybe are going through similar things, or doing different things with the devices that you might not have thought of. That point of contact we just have colloquially called a limb buddy. It's someone you can just either call up or have a video call with, without having to escalate the issue into to any clinical kind of manner. You can just sort of call us and build a relationship, and we can understand how we can best help you. Is the best way to describe
this
it.
This is a question maybe that I'm making this one up basically from a couple of comments that are coming in, Alex. But what's quite interesting is there's always views, and I'm very familiar with this, having been to numerous Reach weekends. There's numerous views about the use of prostheses, and how much do you encourage children and young adults to wear them? How much do you encourage them to be creative and use maybe their other working limbs, whatever? How do you get that balance? What's your view on that, Alex?
I mean, I think it all depends on the level of disability, whether you're, single, double, triple, quadruple. All these things, all these factors have big implications with prosthesis. But I think from a child perspective, I mean, for us, I'll give you an example. When we had to homeschool, which is a parent's nightmare, isn't it? Let's be honest. And I'm very fortunate. I have an outdoor office, so I put my son in there. And the school sent a huge pack of paperwork and pens and all this sort of thing. And it was spread all around the desk, all around the office. And through his Zoom lessons, he'd be getting up, sitting down, moving things around. And I'm looking at him thinking, well, how does a child do that if they've only got one functional arm? And the other arm is either, it could be above elbow, it could be just below elbow. But it's having that ability to pick things up, move things around. So from an education perspective through homeschooling, I would think that wearing a mitt is pretty vital in terms of keeping up with speed and the movement. But also it's about what you can kind of dream of doing. If you're congenital limb difference, you don't really know what's your dominant arm. Are you left-handed or are you right-handed? Now I'm left-handed, but obviously that's no good because my stump's just above the elbow. So learning to write right-handed with a hook was a nightmare. It was just terrible. And I could just about sign my name now. But it's giving children the ability to see what they can do with the prosthetic, which I think is quite vital. For us, it's giving the kids opportunity it opens up a whole array of different things that they might not have been able to do, like using a scooter, like riding a bike, like kayaking, for instance. I love kayaking, and seeing that child kayaking with, I think, their mum in behind them was amazing. For me, I have to don these huge, heavy prosthetics that probably weigh about sort of 4 or 5 kilos, and then I've got to try and move them around with a paddle. It's not easy, but it gives me the opportunity to go out to travel, to go to far-flung places in the world. So I couldn't do that with one arm. I need prosthetics to do that. So for me, it's all about the world that it opens up to the child and to the adult. I mean, I'm different because I came into this 7 years ago, and I enjoy the fight. I like the struggle, and I like the fact that there's problems that need addressing through the process, really. But I know a lot of people don't want that. So what we want to give them is a very simple, user-friendly, customer-friendly solution for them or for the children to be able to try different things, to do different things, and to really just give them an idea of excitement, of the possibility. It is limitless. That's the whole point. It gives them the chance to do all sorts of different things that they may never
I think
have had the confidence to try before.
that's really interesting, Alex, that you say that. And of course, everybody's circumstances are going to be individual. But one of the things you're talking there about the different things that you can do, as you say, it's limitless. And of course, it makes me think about some of those tools that you were talking about earlier on, Nate. Give us an idea of the difference in all those tools that just clip on magnetically.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that actually speaks to the point I was going to make, but Alex maybe was that we do think of it, and we've learned this from just talking to people with limb difference, in that we think of these wearables as more like tools. So we don't really encourage any particular usage time other than use it when it's useful to do specific things. And so following on that concept of tools, so each limb sort of comes with a magnetic attachment. And then we have 5 standard tools. You can see like a full breakdown on the website. And what your limb buddy will do is send you videos of them in use. But you can see they're sort of designed, they've all been designed from user feedback, but they're designed for like quite versatile tasks. So most of them, so like this one, I'm just trying to place it there. It's Velcro it around sort of any sort of cylindrical object. You can take the foam out and put it around like handlebars of a bike, for example. That's what we've used this one for a lot. And you can position it in different angles and lock it off. You have another one that's very similar, but this one indexes round instead. So again, it's good for pens, paintbrushes, pencils, or wider handlebars, handled things, maybe like hairbrushes. Quite versatile. And then we have sort of different grippers, which are pretty much glorified bulldog clips. But what we find is it's to grip stuff, and you can position it in different angles to grip stuff while you may work on it with your other hand, or to do like predominantly two-handed tasks. But the important point in that is that we've sort of honed in on very versatile ones as our basic set, but from here up is sort of can be anything. And very often we get specific requests and we can make bespoke specific solutions on the end, and we're always making new ones. So again, these will change. By the time this is uploaded, it will probably be out of date as well. So we change all the time. We update all the time.
Now, obviously, Reach is predominantly a charity that looks after young people and children with upper limb differences. But we did have a question coming in saying, are you only focusing on arm prosthetics, or will you ever look at legs?
So again, because we're just led by what people tell us, and we're more about like making solutions. And like I say, sometimes it's prosthetics, sometimes it's not. But we, following that logic through, we want to have a solution or a tool to use for all areas of limb difference. So I won't say too much, but yes, we will be doing stuff
Okay,
more and
I
more.
think that was a good enough indication that watch this space. And by the way, thank you everybody who's putting their questions in. We really appreciate that because this is for you guys. These are the questions that you have that I want to be able to put to Nate and Alex. So please keep the questions coming in. This is really, really valuable for everybody to really get some answers. And we've got another question here about are there any examples of use in super young kids? And there was a comment about first use case being riding a bike, for example.
Yeah, so I mean, we have they. In case you missed, they go down very, very teeny tiny. So this would be for a 3-month-old baby. Is the youngest that we've ever fitted. Obviously, at that age, we're not doing particularly delicate tasks. It's more about coordination. And back to the point earlier, it's certainly not something to be worn 24/7. What parents normally do for very, very young children is just leave it in the toy box along with the other toys, and when their little wants to play with it, then they have the opportunity to. It's about making it approachable and accessible and fun. It's something that the child, if they want to in later life, use a prosthetic. It's not alien to them. They've grown up with it, and so yeah, we can go pretty young with these limbs.
And Alex, obviously, you had such an incredible life-changing moment 7 years ago. For you, watching these developments happen, for you to be involved in all of these projects, how do you feel that you're instrumental in seeing improvements and developments?
I never thought in a million years right at the beginning that I'd be doing something like this. But I think I was just so disappointed with what was on offer. And Nate and I talk about this all the time, but what we want to try and create is something more of a lifestyle and not a medical device. I think the one thing, when you've been in hospital for, I think I was in for about 8 months, I think 7, 8 months. And then in 2 years, I probably spent 18 months in hospital. The last thing you want is something that reminds you of that time, of the clinical aspect of cold rooms and not a very pleasant time for many people. We want something that looks cool. The kids want to go, do you know what? If I didn't have an arm, I want that. That is what I want. My son, right at the beginning, said, "Look, Dad, I think you're going to end up looking like a Power Ranger." I said, "Well, that's great. If I end up looking like that, that's fantastic." And he had a very kind of open mind about it. And that, my little boy, inspires me all the time. And the reason I'm probably doing what I'm doing now with Nate is because of Sam. All through the last 7 years, it's all been about proving to Sam that whatever happened to Dad is not going to stop him doing some really cool stuff. And what my son loves is all the boxes that arrive with all the different mitts and arms and attachments. And right at the beginning, I said to Nate, I said, the one thing I can't do safely is pick up a glass of wine by the stem, because the likelihood is I'll break it. So if you can design a wine glass attachment that I can simply sit on the sofa at night, have my little glass of white wine in the wine glass attachment, then that's a win for me. Huge, huge win. But something so simple and something that was 3D printed within 24 hours can make a big difference to somebody like me. And I think that's the best thing about what we're doing, is the immediacy of the change. We're not going through all sorts of different approvals and systems where you might design something, but it might take 5 years to get to market. This is almost immediate. And to see the speed of change and how rapid the improvements have become within the Mitt and with Koalaa has been probably one of the best things I've ever done. And I'm super proud of Nate. From 4 years ago when I first met him to where he's now is just phenomenal. And I think it just goes to prove that giving up some of your time to go and work with university students, the difference that's made has been massive. And I can't stress enough, I think, the importance of creating that network, really, of people willing to work with students to help them design on different projects, engineering projects, prosthesis projects. The difference it can make is proven here with what Nate's done.
I'm sure everyone watching will absolutely echo that. And thanks so much for saying that, Alex. And certainly the teamwork that has been created between you two with Reach and all of the Reach families who are involved in the project is fantastic. So congratulations to absolutely everybody. And we've had one question come in, which is an interesting one because people sometimes are a little bit nervous about doing something new or trying something new. So how do you deal with that one, Nate? When people say, well, I think I'd like to try it, but I don't want to waste your time and get you to make me something and I don't wind up using it. It's almost like a way where you can sort of trial something and see how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's something we heard a lot, that if the process is laborious, it's a barrier to even starting it. So very much by accident, because we've simplified the whole process and because we try and personalize each element of it with a human interaction, there's very little risk for trying. So I mean, with the limbs themselves, even if we match you up one and send you one and you don't like it, it's not right for you, or it's just not something that would fit into your daily schedule, then you can always send it back because it is flexible and because it's like clothes. We can take that back, refurbish it, repurpose it, and give it to someone else. And we do lots of stuff abroad as well, projects all over the world. And so a limb that you don't want can go to someone overseas, which I think is a nice level of connectivity about that.
And that's
really give it a go. Yeah, no
a really
harm, no
interesting
foul.
thing you say about repurposing and things, because obviously there's an eco element to all of this as well. So the fact that you can repurpose and refurbish, I mean, that's really exciting.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because we're at this weird. We've always looked at prosthetics, and I think this is why they ended up being a little bit different. It very much came from Alex's insight in that you're wearing them, so in a way they're kind of like clothes more than a device. So we're in this intersection of like fashion and and technology, and fashion gets a bad rap for unsustainability, and so it's quite nice to design from the ground up. Be like, okay, if this device is returned to me at some point, how can we make sure it doesn't just go to a landfill? Like, how can we reuse it? So we're really leaning on this idea of like circularity in everything we do. So once we make something and give it to you, and once you're done with it, even if you want to upgrade or just get rid of it altogether, it's not waste. We can still use that, and we can still help someone with it, and you can still help someone with it. So it's quite a cool reason to get involved.
And talking of help, what help would you like from the Reach community? For a start, people are probably asking, where on earth do you get your funding from, and how do you manage to, do these amazing developments with probably what is a shoestring budget? So where does the money come from, and where and how can people within the community help you?
So yeah, a couple of things. I mean, I think the main takeaway, if anything from this, is that if you have a child with limb difference, or if you're a teenager with limb difference, or and you'd like to try out one of these limbs, then under Project Limitless, because of the overwhelming public support, and I can't overstate how grateful and humbled we are that the public wants to get behind a project like this. But we have funding to send you one, so you don't have to pay anything. It's been paid for by very generous people. So go to our website, which is your Koalaa, YOUR, and then that funky spelling of koala.com, and click on the Project Limitless button and just sign up and register. And then immediately you'll be put in contact with one of our team who will be your limb buddy and just sort of help you through the process. And yeah, I think it's this bit of a tangent, but I mean, it is super heartwarming the last year because the world's been a little bit topsy-turvy, to say the least. And to do a project like this, it's only been possible because of partnerships with like Reach and with you, Alex, and with all the UK charities. There's so much goodwill, and it's just such an amazing community of people. Like the limb difference community is just epic. So really, we're alive because of everyone listening, and we want to. If we can be helpful in any small way, then please use us. So for anything, please do. Yeah. get in touch with us.
Brilliant. And again, we will put those details in the chat for everybody to be able to see as well. And something from a more practical perspective, Alex, we've seen a tremendous change in prosthetics, from being super uncomfortable to these new fabrics, which are a lot more comfortable. And we've had a question come in about the fabric on your skin. How does that feel? And of course, especially for children and younger children, we know that hard cast and socks can irritate their skin. So, tell us a bit about the comfort of them.
I mean, they're unbelievably comfortable, and because they're adjustable, I always found it strange. I had to stick my sorry about that. To stick my stump into a black cave for 16 hours a day does not seem natural to me in any shape. So the comfort aspect is huge, and to slide it into something soft and comfortable, I think we're looking at it from an adult perspective. I look at it and it is a slipper prosthetic. It's the super comfortable, take your high heels off, which is your hard shell, put your slipper on at the end of the day, or take your heels off as you get into the office and put your slipper arm on, so it's comfortable for 8 to 10 hours, however long you want to work in your office. So, I mean, I think the fabric element is again, as Nate said, it's the comfortability of it, but it's also the merger of lifestyle and fashion within the device, because we don't want it to be seen as a medical device. We want this to be, as I say, cool, interesting, and super comfortable.
It's so inspiring hearing that, and hearing all the work that's gone into it, and just the tremendous advances that have happened over the last few years. I want to have a little bit of a glimpse into the future. I'm putting you right on the spot here, Nate. But what kind of developments, what kind of things do you think we could look forward to in the next year or two? Looking at the trajectory of the work that you're doing at the moment.
Top secret. I can't tell you. No, I can. Like I say, it's a lot of we're sort of pulled in the direction that we hear. So I think it's no harm. I might get told off for this later, but I'll do anyway. It's no harm in saying that in the same way we went from a below elbow sleeve to a partial hand sleeve, we hear a lot that there's not a lot of options for above elbow kind of devices. So that's the next thing that we want to look at. So if you'd be interested in helping us with the development of that, so this isn't Project Limitless, this would be separate. If you want to help us in the development with that, then again, I'm like a broken record, but do get in touch and say you'd like to try that out or feedback. And then I'd also say, let us know what our blind spots are. So if you're a parent of a child and you have a very specific kind of limb difference and there's just nothing out there for you that we might not know of, tell us about it, because that's where we thrive. We want to know what we're missing there. But certainly in the immediate horizon is above elbow.
We always joke.
Go ahead, Alex.
About for me, it's about the tools that need developing. We've got some tools which are great, but there's so many things that kids want to do. I mean, when I was a 9-year-old at school, I decided to learn the bagpipes, which is probably the worst decision I ever made. But imagine if I'd kept that going and I lose both my arms. Well, how do I play the bagpipes? That's kind of gone. So for a child to maybe not the bagpipes, obviously, because the parents would hate that. But if you want to learn the trumpet, for instance, if there's something you want to learn and you feel that there isn't a tool out there that can do that, then we want to hear about it. So we can look to develop something that gives you the opportunity to try that. And I think that's a massive part of this buddy system, where we get the information from you guys and then we can look to address those problems.
Now, guys, we're going to close this in a few minutes, and we're going to continue the chat. So thank you so much for agreeing to hang around and be involved in the chat that will continue after this recording. But I just want to finish off by asking you, what would you like from the Reach community? What can the Reach community do to help you and to help your progress and to help Project Limitless in its progress? Nate,
I would say if you either are a parent of a child with limb loss or you know someone who is, please share that we're doing this. We have spaces for people to essentially get the sort of support that we can provide. So if you'd be interested in trying it, or you know someone who would, please share it as far and wide as you can, and send anyone you think might enjoy it our way. Would be amazing.
Brilliant. Alex?
I think we can only improve upon our product by feedback from you guys and information. We need an information dump, an overload really, so we can continue to improve the product for children and then obviously for adults as they move through. I think at the moment, as I said before, there's so little information on amputation, prosthetics, congenital limb difference. It's very, very hard from our perspective to be making the right things without feedback. So we just need as much information as you can give us, so we can continue to move forward and address a really, really bad situation for people with limb difference.
Absolutely brilliant, and that's a fantastic way to close, guys. Thank you so much. Nate, I'm just overawed by everything you've done. It's been great to follow your journey, and we look forward to seeing you at the Reach weekend this year, which will hopefully be in person. We'll have to wait and see. And I can't wait to see your latest developments and what you've progressed to. And Alex, hopefully maybe we'll meet you at one of these weekends as well. But thank you
Absolutely.
both so much for giving up your Saturday mornings, for being with us, and for sharing such valuable information to the Reach family. Look after yourselves. Take care, and to everybody who's watching, please do continue the conversation in the chat below. We'll be back again next Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, so we look forward to seeing you then. But in the meantime, from all of us to all of you, have a great weekend, continue the conversation, stay safe, bye for now.